Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And welcome. Welcome to this week's live stream here on the Prepcast channel. Lessons learned from the 2021 PMP exam. That's what we are going to be looking at today. Hello. Let's see. Learning objective today is this is the third time that we're doing a lessons learned here in the live stream, and it's always the same. It's at the end of this, I want you to be able to describe what to expect from the 2021 PMP exam. I have read about 100 or so lessons learned since the beginning of the year, and I have sort of summarized and analyzed them for you and brought them together. My name is Cornelius Fichtner. I have been a PMP instructor since about 2007, 2008, something like that. And all the logos that you see here on the screen, my claim to fame, I am the creator of the Prepcast, and I'm also the creator of the Exam Simulator, the PM Formulas. I'm the host of the Project Management Podcast and the PDU Podcast. And hello to today's live stream to all of you. Let's take a look at the agenda today, a relatively straightforward agenda. I want to talk to you quickly about the PMP exam prep courses that my company is offering this month and next month and also into May. And then we go straight into lessons learned from those who have taken the 2021 exam. And like I said, I read about 100 of them. My presentation is 92 slides long today. We'll see how far we get through this. But at the end, I also want to give you take action there so you can pass your PMP exam. Mohammed is asking, are these sessions recorded? Yes, they are. You can watch them again on Facebook and on YouTube later on. And since we are talking about watching, my question to you is, why are you watching? I would like to know, why are you in particular watching this lesson, this live stream here? Let me give you the link here in the chat. There we go. I would appreciate it if that's just a single question, a multiple choice. I would appreciate it if you would quickly go to surveymonkey.com/r/PMP live stream and let me know why you are here today. Right. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm really not sure whether we can get through all the lessons learned that I have for you today. This is also why this is already number 3 that we're doing, because there are more lessons learned coming out pretty much every day. So once again, for those of you who have just joined us, please do stop by at surveymonkey.com/r/PMP livestream and do let me know why you are here live or why you are watching this. Would very much appreciate it. So since I do not know if you can get through all the lessons learned today, why don't we get started, right? Let me get started with this one right here. This is pretty much brand new. This is from Saturday. 90% of my questions were scenario-based. For example, something happens. What should a project manager do next or do first? This covered all topics from what process should you follow, what document is next, all the way to people and personal management. And you can see in very, very small font there at the bottom, this is from Reddit. I had a conversation with that particular user and I invited her or him today as well. If you're here, please let me know. Very good lesson learned that you have given us here. So generally speaking, what we learned from this particular lesson learned is the PMP exam is scenario-based. There are no more questions about which of the following is not an input to process X. It is scenario-based. Your experience as a project manager is important. And there he is. John is here. He gave us this lesson. John, you've already passed your PMP exam, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, yeah, of course. This was from your lesson learned. What am I even thinking and saying? So congratulations, John, for passing your exam. And thank you very much from everybody for giving us the in-depth lesson learned that you wrote there on Reddit. Okay. Thank you very much, Rich. When Cornelius speaks, you should listen. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, I told you I was going to speak to you a little bit about our upcoming courses. So we have a course starting on March 22nd, a 1-week power prep there, Monday to Friday. That power prep repeats on April 19th and on May 3rd. And by the way, these are all with Oliver Lehmann. Okay, one of the biggest names in PMP training. March 22nd, April 19th, May 3rd, that's Oliver Lehmann. And then on April 3rd and on April 17th, we have 5 Saturday courses. So if you want to take it a little bit slower, take April 3rd. It's a 5 Saturday over 5 weeks. And then April 17th is 5 Saturdays over 6 weeks. And we even have a waiting list for those of you for the rest of May and June if any of these course dates don't work for you. So if you are taking a course in 2021, then pmprepcast.com/PMP is where you can register for our courses. If you register today, most of our courses offer early bird discounts, $100 off, $200 off, depending on where you purchase them. So the sooner you order, the better it is. All right. And now, with all of this preamble done, let's get started and get into all of the other lessons learned that I have for you, starting with question types. Okay, so I had 4 question types. Matching was by far the easiest of all the types. Selecting multiple answers was kind of tricky, but not very difficult. Also, there were questions where you had to click on a chart. If you did not know this, the PMP exam has changed significantly in terms of the types of questions that you have on the exam today. In the past, it was 1 question, A, B, C, D, pick the best answer. Okay. Now there are multiple formats. Select 2, drag and drop, click on a chart, type in a letter, right? So expect that the PMP exam is no longer the way that it was in the past. And this is what this person says right there. All right. We have Dawood who says, I have a question, please. Oh, go ahead, type it in. I'll bring it up, see if we can answer it. Rui asks, how long is this session? That depends on how many questions we get, Rui. Last 2 times, the session was an hour and an hour 15 in duration. When we get a lot of questions, we stay longer. All right, still question types, excuse me. In terms of the new format questions, I got matching and multiple response. About 20 questions overall were like that. So again, this person tells us that out of the 180 questions, about 160 were the regular ones, A, B, C, D, pick one, but 20 of them were different. Then we also have this one here, the person who has fill in the blank questions where you have to type the letter A, B, C, or D. So this is the situation that we all find a bit odd. A question A, B, C, D. Select the radio button, A, B, C, or D. But PMI also has a question, 4 answers, A, B, C, D, and then you have to type the letter on your keyboard, A, B, C, or D, right? And we're not quite sure what's going on there, but we'll get back to that in just a bit. More about question types here. Several drag and drop questions, okay. 1 click on the diagram question, okay. Many choose 3, choose 2, okay. So again, all of these are all separate lessons learned here. This is not from one person, okay. And you can see here that these new question types are indeed on the PMP exam. And this is why I always recommend, in the past, you could just, pick up a PDF document that there would A, B, C, D, and you can just mark it, right? But how do you do a drag and drop in a PDF? How do you click on a chart and all that, right? It's impossible. You need an exam simulator. Okay, got a question here, long one. A lot of PMs were taking the old format last month of 2020, and there was a huge technical error by Pearson VUE. It would only be right for those who received the old exams without default. Do you agree? And I am not PMI. PMI has clearly stated that starting January 1st of this year, only the new exam will be administered. I do know that PMI occasionally, gives people the opportunity to retake, right? So I am not going to get into the politics of this here, frankly. This is up to PMI to decide which way they wish to go. Okay. Dawood, here's the question. I'm practicing prep cost simulator. My exam is on March 23rd, 70 and 68. What is your recommendation? Keep going at it. Okay. That's my recommendation. If you use an exam simulator, right? In our exam simulator, an average of 75% is about what you are targeting. So with this number here, you are at about a 75% just with these two numbers, right? Add them up, divide them by 2. And this is what we do. The most important thing is the numbers are not really all that important. The important thing is that you take an exam, take a quiz, and then go through it in detail. You want to make sure that you really understand why did you get something wrong. And then look at the references, look at the explanations, learn from your mistake. That is the most important part of using an exam simulator. All right, okay. And now we're getting back to this one here. I only had one question where I had to enter A, B, C, or D based on the diagram shown. Okay. But yesterday, literally yesterday, I got this one here. One person said I had no fill in the blank questions. So this might indicate, could indicate that PMI is thinking, yeah, you know what, the type A, B, C, D, that doesn't really make sense. We're taking those out again. But since this is only one lesson learned, we do not yet know. So statistically insignificant because the sample size is one person here. But it might be the beginning of PMI is taking these out. Okay. I have a question that I'm not going to bring up. Somebody's asking me about what I think about one of our competitors. I do not want to. I do not know that particular competitor that you have typed in there. All right, so much for the question types. Now let's talk about question style. How are the questions formatted? What do they look like? What's the content? How are they phrased? Okay. The most important thing to understand is this here. PMI is really trying to measure if you are able to apply the knowledge you know onto real live scenarios. Okay, so this is something that many people have always said the PMP exam is lacking. It was a knowledge-based exam, right? But the more you read the new lesson learned, this is coming out, right? The PMP exam is becoming more and more a knowledge-based exam that really requires an experience-based exam that requires you to be able to take your experience and translate it onto the exam questions. I think the next one here is saying us the same thing, very simple. Another factor that helped me is my real-life experience in managing projects and people. Although we need to wear the PMI hat, that's obvious, right? It's a PMP exam from PMI. You need to understand how PMI is doing things. But I found that that hat is not very different from what the project manager needs to do in managing real live projects. Okay. Down here, CJ says some instructors say the exam is a lot harder. I agree with those instructors, CJ. And the exam is a lot harder because in the past, there was a clear focus on waterfall plan-driven type of questions. Now, PMI has opened it up to Agile. So you need to know everything you had to know in the past, and you also have to know Agile. So just because of adding that on top of everything else, it is harder. You need to understand more. You need to know more. And then there is the business domain, the business environment domain, the third domain on the exam content outline, also brand new. Now you clearly have to understand the business of project management as well. That is behind it all. Okay. Moving on. Never at any time did I feel like, oh yeah, no brainer. I totally know this question. Let me bring CJ up again. Some instructors say the exam is a lot harder. Some lessons learned say the exam is a lot harder. Yeah. So do not expect that the PMP exam is an easy exam. Okay. CJ asked, if someone has 20 years experience in mostly in Agile, would that make it easier at that point? It probably does, because with all that Agile experience, you have that already. You still have to go back and study the Agile practice guide and the Scrum guide. You need to understand the theory as well, right? Sometimes, practice and theory, they do diverge a little bit. So you always have to go back. Okay. Rui asks about divide the exam, duration and parts. We'll get to that in a little bit, Rui. Okay. Okay. Moving on to the next one, lessons learned. The actual exam questions were a bit shorter than the ones on the practice tests, but in a way, practicing longer texts will make you feel the exam a bit easier. This, frankly, is the biggest problem that we and everybody else who has an exam simulator faces. We know that the PMP exam questions on the real exam are very short and very vague. They leave a lot of interpretation, and you're never quite sure about things. If the questions in our exam simulator were like that, everybody would complain and they would tell us these questions are impossible, this can't be right, you need to improve those questions. Then they go to the exam and they would come back and go, you know what, you were right. Your questions are exactly like on the exam. So in most exam simulators, what you will see is we need to give you a little bit more information just for one reason, so that you don't complain to us that this question stinks. Okay, in the exam simulator. But once you get to the real PMP exam, you'll go, oh my God, this is really, really vague. Okay, so this is just something that we as exam simulator creators are having to live with. Okay. I assume the time allotted for the new exam is equivalent to the old format. No, CJ, it is 10 minutes less. It is 3 hours and 50 minutes now instead of 4 hours. So that has changed. Oh, okay. I did not mean to bring that up. Okay. Lucas says, I'm currently preparing for the exam in English, but I am not sure if I should take the exam in English or in my main language. Thanks for the advice. Lucas, this is completely up to you. Most exam simulators out there are only available in English. There are one or two Spanish simulators. We're also thinking about offering Spanish later this year. So that is available, but many other languages are not. Okay. Ravi. Hi there, Cornelius. I can't wait to thank you and OSP International helped me pass the PMP exam the 5th of March with 3 ATs. I purchased the simulator and the booster course. They were a great learning source. Thank you, Robbie. I'm very happy that we were able to help you. Okay. Yes, Rick, indeed. I've seen recent posts that the Scrum framework is used for the majority of that request. Any trends you see to confirm this? Indeed. We'll see that later on when we get to the Agile section of my presentation. Next lessons learned. It was not a walk in the park. Daunting questions, very similar to the Prepcast simulator, but sometimes with tweaks and sometimes it felt too easy. So you question yourself, can it be that easy? All right. Okay. And for those of you who have just joined us, about 5 minutes before I started this presentation, I decided I would like to know why you are joining me here today. Let me paste the link back into the chat here. So I'm going to send a link once again in the chat on Facebook and on YouTube. This is a quick survey, one question survey. If you haven't yet responded to that, just tell me why you are here. It's a multiple choice, just like the PMP exam, 1 question, 4 answers. And let me know why you are here, why you are joining us today or watching this recorded. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Their exam simulator, that's my exam simulator, 51% of my success in both exams that I have taken, similar to Ravi here, who says that he's used my exam simulator and the booster course. So people really like it. But let me make it absolutely clear. Yes, of course, I would appreciate it if you bought my exam simulator, but there are many exam simulators out there. The biggest thing you should realize is you need an exam simulator in order to properly prep for your exam, right? Dan Ryan has one, Andy Crow has one, Rita Mulcahy has one, PM Training has one, we have one. There are many options out there. The one statement you need to hear and need to act upon is get an exam simulator, period. All right. That's about the question style. Coming back to the question vagueness, right? I already spoke to this here, but I've got a few that confirm this. Most of the time, you can easily eliminate 1 to 2 answers off the bat, but then, like in real life, you will have to choose between a good answer and the best answer. Okay. On the exam day, I was genuinely shocked at the difficulty and seeming vagueness of the questions. Firstly, I've been accustomed to what I'd seen on Rita, that's Rita Mulcahy's exam simulator from RMC, the logic of which does make sense after carefully considering the explanation. But when doing Rita problems for the first time, I was uncertain about maybe 15% of the questions. I consider myself a fairly skilled test taker. However, I felt uncomfortable with 90% of the questions on the exam. This is what I spoke about earlier, right? If we put questions that are as vague as the real PMP exam into our simulators, you are nothing but going to complain to us and tell us that these are bad questions, right? You don't know where you are. You really have no understanding. Be prepared for, a lot more vagueness on the real PMP exam. We're doing our best to balance this, right? And give you good questions that help you learn. But in the end, the PMP exam is really, really vague. The questions were mostly situational, and you had to basically pick the best option out of the available ones, even though in real life, those may not be the best options or decisions you would make as a PM. And again, here is the vagueness. I honestly wasn't sure of a lot of my answers as the situations were unique, and I had to use my best judgment. Okay. And then, in general, the question info was shorter than on the Prepcast and more vague. The Prepcast had more reference to specific process names. The exam was more vague. Okay. I try not to be vague in my statement here. The PMP exam is vague, okay? Be prepared for that. That's what the lesson learned is that we take away from all of these. Nandini asks, how many mock exams do you recommend before taking the real exam? I don't recommend a number. I recommend a percentage of getting things right. Okay. In our exam simulator, I mentioned this previously, we're talking about 75% correctness. So if you reach 75% in our exam simulator, that's about the place where you can consider yourself to be ready. If you use a different exam simulator, please reach out to the provider and ask them, hey, what should my target be? Okay. All right. CJ, took the exam in years after taking a PMP course, which I don't recommend. Took Jeff Furman's course, excellent course. Couldn't take the exam back in December due to technical errors. Now here I am. Jeff referred me to you, and I'm enjoying your lessons. Thank you. Oh, thank you, CJ. Appreciate it. Do you have my booster course? The booster course that we offer is exactly for people like you to help you bridge what you learned last year and what you are doing. the exam you're going to be taking. Nicole, how long are the practice exams in your simulator? Now, Nicole, we have two types of exams. Well, we have one type of exam and one type of quiz. The exams are exactly like the PMP exam. 180 questions, 3 hours and 50 minutes with 2 breaks, okay? 2 virtual breaks. You have to manage your own time there, okay? We'll get to the timing and all of that in a little bit in my presentation, okay? So these are real situation. It's like taking the real PMP exam is what I want to say. And then we also have quizzes. Like you have 10 minutes over lunch or 15 minutes over lunch. Give me 10 questions from scope management, right? So that's what you can do. In total, there are 2,100 questions on the exam. Okay. Exam content outline. All right, let me state this clearly. The PMP exam is not based on the PMBOK guide. Let me repeat that. The PMP exam is not based on the PMBOK guide. Instead, it is based on this here, the exam content outline. This describes the syllabus, the content, what we have on the exam and what PMI can ask you about, okay? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is this single lessons learned here. This person says, there was a question that referenced personality indicators. I never saw anything about this tool in any of my studying, okay? My response here is, if you never saw anything about this in your studying, then the course you were taking simply wasn't created correctly. Because in the exam content outline from PMI, task 14 from the people domain says, promote team performance through the application of emotional intelligence, right? And then they also say you have to be able to assess behavior through the use of personality indicators. So the exam content outline does talk about personality indicators. My tip for all of you out there, find the PMP exam content outline 2021, print it, and then take a green, yellow, and red highlighter. Go through it like you see here, right? Highlight them. Green, everything what you know. Oh, I know this. I've learned about this. I've studied this. Okay. Yellow, oh, yeah, I heard about this. Not so sure. And red, never heard about this. Don't know what this is all about. Need to study up on this. So if this lessons learned provider here, this candidate had done that, they would have known that the personality indicators are part of the exam content outline. Okay. All right, Mimi says, I have a small baby, not possible to take 4 hours. I do understand that, of course, yes, until I actually take the real exam. As an alternative, you should say quizzes for maximum 100 questions. Yeah, of course. That's what you should do, exactly that. Do whatever is possible. I think, Mimi, the biggest problem that you are going to be having, the biggest problem that you might be having is then during the real exam, being able to pace yourself correctly, right? And being able to having that experience of 3 hours and 50 minutes, 180 questions at a time, okay? So that might be something that you just have to face on the day of the exam. Okay. CJ, are you asking about where to obtain the exam content outline? Is that the question you have? Wait, HTTP, I'm typing it in. pm-prepcast.com/PMP outline. There we go, typing this in. If I typed this correctly, the link now appears in the chat for you. This is where you can get the outline right there. Okay, and now to the big one, Agile. All right, Agile dominates lessons learned. When you read as many lessons learned as I have read this year, you will find that this is, it's just everybody talks about it. How many Agile, how many hybrid lessons that they have, questions that they have had on the real exam. So that means Agile is extremely important for the PMP exam. If you do not know Agile, if you do not understand Agile, simply put, you will fail the PMP exam. Without knowing this, you cannot pass the exam. Okay. So let's take a look at a few lessons learned from Agile. Read the Agile part of the PMBOK, as well as the tailoring and hybrid projects. If you open up the PMBOK guide, in every chapter, chapter 4 to chapter 13, you will see that there is 2 or 3 paragraphs in the introduction to these chapters about Agile and tailoring and hybrid. Okay, so you definitely want to read that. Then just make sure you know how to move into Agile, change requests, how to manage difficult people in Agile, motivation, lack of team skill sets. So this is very important in terms of the PMP exam, that you really understand how Agile works and how Agile, the processes are, because they're different than in waterfall approaches. General tip would be to have a good knowledge of Agile and Scrum methodologies, as well as the roles and responsibilities within the team for those players. Okay, and this is why I keep saying, okay, you have to study this here. There we go, the Agile Practice Guide. The Agile Practice Guide comes together with the PMBOK guide. So if you purchase a printed copy of the PMBOK guide, this is shrink wrapped together. So you get this as a freebie with it. And if you download the PDF document, then you will also get this in the same PDF document, somewhere around page 750, something like that. That's where the Agile Practice Guide starts in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. Okay. And next, most Agile is actually Scrum. Okay. Only had 2 questions related to Kanban, and they were softballs. Okay. If you learn the Scrum basics really well, you can solve at least 25% of the exam easily. And that is why I recommend, I'm typing it in right now, scrumguides.org. Scrumguides.org. Go to this URL here, HTTP, I think it's S. Okay, so I've typed it in with HTTPS, scrumguides.org. It has an S at the end, so HTTPS, scrumguides.org. Please do go to that URL and do study the Scrum Guide on the 2017 and the 2020. They have 2. We believe at this time that PMI is using the 2017 Scrum Guide. So you definitely want to understand the 2017 Scrum Guide for your exam. Okay. Vignesh, do you recommend to start with the 2020 and then proceed with the 2021? Vignesh, yes, I do. If you would like to fail your PMP exam, that's exactly what you should be doing. Okay. No, don't. Please do not do that. Do not do that. Do not take any 2020 questions anymore. Only 2021. Okay. Ignore 2020. Please, right? You will fail your exam if you study 2020 questions. They are so different. Okay. Forget 2020. It is now 2021. Only study 2021 questions here. Another question about recording. Yes, this will be recorded on Facebook and on YouTube. It'll be available about 5 minutes after we are done here. Okay. Because of the new format and strong presence of Agile, do you think PMI Agile CP is just as valuable? Actually, I don't. I feel that, here's the thing. The PMP exam is a generalist exam. Right? You manage all kinds of projects. You manage waterfall projects, you manage IT projects, you manage projects that can be in healthcare, that are operational, that are logistics, that manage, I don't know, how to get barcodes onto books. So you do anything. And you also know about Agile. So you are a generalist, whereas the PMI ACP is a specialist exam focused only on Agile. Okay. And also the PMP is for project managers, while the PMI ACP is for anybody working in Agile. So it could be a designer working on Agile projects, a tester, a QA person working on Agile. So the PMI ACP and the PMP have clearly defined separate target audiences there. Okay, moving on with Agile. Full of Agile questions. No Scrum, Kanban, retrospectives, leadership styles, implement or starting Agile, moving from predictive to Agile, calculate questions, several drag and drop scenarios. So once again, you can see lots and lots of Agile, very important for you to know for your exam. Another good feedback here on our exam simulator. We have done a tremendous job in explaining each and every answer choice of the questions in the simulator. I think this is the one thing that our customers really like. When you have done your quiz or your exam, you can go in and then you can review each question. For each question, we give you sort of a general, high-level explanation, and then we tell you for each of the answer choices, why is this one incorrect? So incorrect because, incorrect because, correct because, incorrect because. So for each of them, we tell you exactly what it is. And obviously for some, we don't do that. 1 and 1 is 2. Right, you picked the wrong answer, right? Or for the drag and drop questions, right? We don't have to explain. It's just plan, do, check, act. That's the correct order. Do, check, act, plan is the incorrect order. But for most of the questions, you will have detailed explanations, and that is what this person talks about here. And then you can go in, look at these detailed explanations, learn from them, and do not repeat them. Repeat your mistakes in the future. All right, we've done some statistics here. Okay, and this is not surprising. Our simulator statistics show that our Agile PMI ACP students are better at Agile questions than PMP students. Big surprise, right? So somebody who's studying for a specific Agile exam is better at answering Agile questions than somebody who's studying for a more generalist exam. Big surprise, right? But it's still an interesting thing to note here. Let me show you the numbers. So what we have done is certain questions in our Agile simulator are we copied them over into the PMP exam because, asking a question about Scrum, it's the same question, whether it's for Agile ACP exam or the PMP exam, right? So here are the two questions, right? So question ID 6155 there. 72% of people who answered that in the ACP simulator got it wrong, right, but only 48% of people got it wrong, right, for PMP. And the second one there, 67% of people got it right for ACP, only 36 got it correct for PMP, right? So you can tell that PMPs have a hard time with Agile. All right, very, very interesting. Question we have from Simona, 9th edition from Rita. I would recommend using the 10th edition, although I have been told, and this is completely anecdotal, okay? I do not know this. Somebody told me that the 10th edition is very, very close to the 9th edition. So not a lot of changes have happened. But again, very anecdotal. Don't listen to me. Ask somebody who actually purchased the 9th and the 10th whether or not that is the case. Okay. All right. Exam simulator in the past. I failed the exam twice. I'm so hesitant to take it again, but really want to designation. Any advice to pass it on the third attempt? Julia, the only attempt is the same. The only advice is the same as I can give anybody else. You have to spend at least the same amount of time in reviewing the question as you spend in answering the question. So if you take a 50-question quiz and it takes you, say, an hour, you spend at least an hour reviewing, reading up, opening the PMBOK guide, opening the reference material, going back to the Agile practice guide, and just repeating that over and over and over again to bring up your average. That is the best advice that I have for you there. Okay. Somebody asks, is anybody managing the iterations? Yes, her family. So the company RMC is family owned, and I believe her son and husband. I'm not 100% sure who's actually the president of the company right now. Okay. Here's a question about the upcoming PMBOK Guide 7th edition. Okay. At this point in time, it is March the 15th, 2021. For the next 3 months, do not worry about the PMBOK Guide 7th edition, even though it's supposed to be coming out at the end of the month here, right? Do not worry about the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. Use the 6th edition. Forget the 7th edition. Okay, hybrid questions. Many questions about traditional project management, team moving to agile, hybrid methodologies. You must determine the best practices. Prepare to understand how predictive process group relate to the Scrum sprint cycle. And then in all caps, important. So again, you need to know what a hybrid project is and how you move from plan-driven into agile, or how to integrate aspects of agile into your plan-driven project. Okay. Probably 75 to 85% are hybrid and agile related questions. I strongly doubt this. According to the exam content outline, 50% are plan-driven waterfall questions and 50% are agile hybrid questions. I always say that people are just so surprised and not used to these agile questions that they may think that there are so many more. Nikki asks, would you recommend getting my application approved before beginning to study? It's a great way of putting some pressure onto you, Nikki. So get your application approved, right? And then you know, okay, I am approved, I can take the exam. And now you have a year, right? You have 12 months, right? And during that time, you're probably going to finish up. So you put a little bit of pressure on yourself. You go, okay, I have a year now, right? So that's a good thing to do, okay? For the Agile, what books should we refer to in detail? This one here, the Agile Practice Guide, comes bundled with the PMBOK Guide, also the Scrum Guide at scrumguides.org. If you go up in the comments, you will see that I've put the link to scrumguides.org in there. Okay. Is there a value addition to those who passed the new format over those who have passed the previous format, even in December 2020? I passed my exam in 2004. Am I less of a PMP than somebody who passed the PMP exam in December last year? Am I less of a PMP than somebody who passed the exam yesterday? I don't think so. Okay, we're all PMPs. There is no qualitative difference. Okay. I passed my exam today, scoring above target in all areas except one. The exam simulator is a game changer, worth the investment. Take the test often, being sure to look at why you were correct and incorrect in your answers. Good luck to you all. Okay, that was literally the answer that I had given just a moment ago to another somebody who put a comment in here about what do you do? How do you get your scores up? This is how you get your scores up. Next section: formulas and calculator. Right? This is very easily summarized. Okay. You do not need to know the formulas in detail. You need to be able to interpret results. That's kind of what it summarizes and down to. Here we go. The first, lessons learned. No full math questions at all. They did reference CPI. That's the oh gosh, now cost performance index. Look at this. My mind goes blank. And the other ones a few times. So that means what you need to know what it means, what they represent. Did not use the calculator for even a singular question. There are hardly 1 to 2 questions with carry calculation. Just understand the term CPI, cost performance index, SPI, schedule performance index, float, compression, fast tracking, resource leveling, and smoothing. Here is my recommendation to you. take the PMBOK guide, open the PMBOK guide up on page 267. 267. On page 267, you will see this table here, okay? On the far right, you have how to interpret results, okay? This is what you need to be able to do on the PMP exam. You need to understand what it means if a CPI is below 1, above 1, exactly 1, okay? It's above 1. What do you do to your project? Are you in trouble? Are you not in trouble? What do you do? What's your reaction that you take in a situation like that? All right. Definitions and ITTO. Okay. Note the definitions in the back of the PMBOK guide. There is an exhaustive list of key terms and definitions. Make sure you have a good grasp of what each of these documents and terms are. Note, this person doesn't say memorize them. They say know what they are, have a good grasp of what they are. And that's exactly my recommendation as well. You do not need to memorize anything. You just need to understand and know and have a good grasp and preferably lots of experience in order to pass the exam. Next one here. I didn't study the ITTOs at all. You have to know them from a 30,000-foot view, but don't stress over them. There might have been subtle references to the ITTOs, but not a lot. And in case you don't know the abbreviation, ITTO, inputs, tools, techniques, outputs. There are hundreds of them in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. Santosh asks, I have purchased the PrepCast Simulator and Booster course. Do you recommend for Pocket Prep as well? I do not know the quality of the Pocket Prep app. I believe it is an Android app, if I am not, or at least I know it as an Android app. I do not know the quality of it at all. Okay. CJ asks, are unanswered questions marked as incorrect? Yes. If you do not answer a question on the PMP exam, it is incorrect. Otherwise, you could just, not answer a single question and pass, right? That's the whole point. You have to answer, okay? So if you answer it incorrectly, it's incorrect. If you do not answer it, it's incorrect. So you better at least, if you try, at least you have a chance of getting it right. Okay. Is the Scrum Guide the same as the Agile? No, it is not. So there are two documents. One is the Agile Practice Guide. Agile Practice Guide. Here. This is by the Project Management Institute. Okay. And the Scrum Guide is by scrum.org. Okay. So these are two totally separate documents there that you need to review and learn. Rui asks, what percent of PrepCast should we go to? Around 75 to 80% is what I recommend. Okay. All right. Once somebody has received the 2021 PMP, how much knowledge and exam questions will be covered in the next PMI ACP if you try that? I have to admit, Winton, I do not know. Right, this is a question that we have not really focused on. So the question is basically this: if you studied all that Agile for the PMP exam, will that make the ACP easier? And how much will be repeated? Probably quite a bit, but we do not know. We haven't really done a cross-reference between those two exams there. All right, moving on to technology and room setup. This is in particular important for people who are taking the exam from home. Okay, so if you're planning to take the exam from home, then this is going to be important to you. I have done the system test the day prior and actually had some issues with my computer. Glad I checked. Don't forget to turn off all notifications on your computer. So if you take the exam from home, they will take over everything on your computer. Everything has to be shut down. You can't have any background programs running, Slack or a browser window open or anything. So it's completely shut down. I have two screens here. This is my main screen and this is my secondary screen. You can only have one screen. So I would have to turn this, I would have to take my exam over there on my second screen. So there are all kinds of things that you have to know. Okay. Don't use a work laptop for the course. Not for these courses, for the exam, obviously. Too much security to make them compatible with the View software, even after their system text tells you you're okay. This is a very important thing to remember. Many of us are currently in our home offices and we work from home. We may have a work laptop. Work laptops are often, completely security covered, firewalls, and nothing comes in, nothing goes out that isn't office related. Okay, you will not be able to use that computer to take your PMP exam at home. You have to use your personal computer, your own property, so that you do not have all those firewalls in store. Okay. Santosh asks, you have recommended Refer Guide 2017 rather than 2020, correct? Yes, that is correct. At this point, we believe PMI is using the 2017 guide. The reason for this is the 2020 guide only came out in December of last year. We do not think PMI has already upgraded all its Agile Scrum questions to the 2020 version of the Scrum Guide. Does the PrepCast simulator have the same type of questions like the real exam, drag and drop? Yes. So we have drag and drop. We have multiple choice. We have multiple correct. We do not have click in the chart. We have a workaround for that. And we do not do the type A, B, C, Ds in. Okay. All right. If the PMBOK Guide is considered a cookbook, is there a specific reference book that PMP take the question from? Yes, indeed, Nandini. Look for PMP reference list, and it's on the PMI website. I believe there are 10 books that are the PMI recommends there. Is a PC camera required for the exam? Lucas asks. I can answer that by clicking next on my presentation. Make sure your webcam gets a good clean shot of your face at all time of the day. So this is really important, right? You have to have a webcam and you're going to be on camera the whole 3 hours. Let me read you what this person says. Make sure your webcam can get a good clean shot of your face at all time of day. My desk is opposite my window, so he has a window just behind him, or her, with light, which triggered the camera to adjust exposure, turning me into a silhouette against a white background. Okay, so he had a real problem with light coming from behind, and the camera couldn't pick him up, and so she had trouble really during the exam. Okay, so make sure that light comes from the front and not from the back. Again, software, you can't have any applications running in the background. It will prompt you that an application is open during the exam. You'll notice the screen will be locked as soon as you're connected. We'll only be able to see your exam page. Okay. Yes. The reason why this is very interesting, note the background image, right? This is from a US dollar bill. I think it's a $100 bill, if I'm not mistaken. I think so, right? So why do I use the dollar bill in the background of this one? This is really funny. The person who asked this question said this. Does the Pearson VUE software require you to take the test without closing my browser? I only ask because I run a cryptocurrency stacking program on my computer, and I would like to continue mining cryptocurrency while I'm taking the Pearson VUE test. Okay, so folks, yes, don't mine cryptocurrency while you are taking the PMP exam, right? The Pearson VUE software does not allow you to do that. Very, very interesting and kind of funny lessons learned that I have found there. Also, use an Ethernet cable, right? To take spotty Wi-Fi out of the equation. I had at least a last-minute Wi-Fi issue that almost jeopardized my exam. I believe he or she lost Wi-Fi and was kicked out for a minute, but then got back in. Okay. Togrul asks, if I failed my third attempts in a year, how can I again apply for the exam? Togrul, it's exactly the same process. You basically start with a new application. So just like you applied for this type, the current exam that you may have failed 3 times, you just have to start from scratch again. Go into your account from PMI, say, I would like to start a PMP application, and apply from the beginning. That's how that is done. Turn the sensitivity of your microphone up. Okay. Not 100% sure why this person said that, but most likely, you want to make sure that the proctor on the other side can actually hear you when you talk. All right. Moving on, taking the exam. This person here tested at the Pearson VUE Celtert, well run and friendly. The other person took it from home, and she says, I would highly like to suggest taking the exam in the earlier parts of the day. I took my exam at 5:30 in the afternoon. I was absolutely drained by the end. I had never thought about this, but this is a really good recommendation. The earlier in the day you can take your exam, the better. Of course, if you are a night owl and you sleep until 10 o'clock, then, the earlier in your personal day, right? So I would probably want to take the exam at 8 o'clock in the morning, because that's when I am the freshest, right? And not wait until 5:30 in the afternoon. I'd never really thought about this previously. This person logged on 30 minutes before the exam. They text you a link to upload the photos, ID, and room. Then I waited 15 minutes for the proctor, which was painful because you have to keep your face in the camera frame. You can't move. I never heard from the proctor, and they released me to the exam. Okay, so be prepared that you just have to sit still, right? Once you get started, this is what you're going to be doing, just sitting here waiting for them to show up for 15 minutes. Like this. Right, it's going to be boring, I know. Okay, moving on. This person was waiting for 40 minutes. All right, until they allowed me to start the exam, and you don't know whether you can exit the room while you're waiting or not because it says recording. So yeah, just stay put. Don't walk away. I don't want to read your lesson learned saying, yeah, I left the room while I was waiting and then they kicked me out. Okay. All right. And then we have two contradicting lessons learned. The first person here said, I wasn't sure whether water was allowed. The second person says, you can have water on the table. So the jury is out on this one. I'm not 100% sure on that one here. Nicole asks, I have noisy neighbors. Am I allowed to wear earplugs? I do not know if you are allowed to wear earplugs. Best guess, no, because somebody might be whispering something to you on your earplugs. That would be my best guess here in all of that. CJ waited for hours. So not just the 40 minutes that we had here on the previous one, CJ obviously waited for hours. Breaks and time management. Okay, so there are 2 breaks, both 10 minutes after question 60 and again after 120 questions. So this means the PMP exam is now 3 parts, okay? 60 questions break, 60 questions break, 60 questions end, okay? And you cannot look forward and you cannot look backward. You have to take that break. Well, I recommend you take that break. You have to basically end your first 60 questions, submit them, then you can never look at them again. You work on the second batch of 60 questions. Then at the end of that, you submit them, and then you work on the last batch of 60 questions. And in between the first, second, and third, you can take a 10-minute break if you would like. Everybody says take that break, refresh, and do not skip it, actually, as this person here suggests. Once you submit the previous section of the 50 questions, you cannot go back. So once you are in part 2, question 61 to 119 or 120, you cannot go back to question 1 to 60. Okay. Here we go. Ken says, water in a clear glass is allowed. Thank you, Ken, for confirming that. Now we are allowed. CJ asks, can you get up for me just during your break? Yes, you can. That's the point, CJ. The breaks are intended for you to leave your desk and go go to the restroom, get a drink, do something like that. Rui asked, what is the pass-fail criteria to pass the PMP exam? The simple answer to this one is, Rui, only PMI knows. PMI does not clearly state what the exam criteria are. Okay. Moving on. Be very careful with the time. It goes fast. If you get stuck on any questions and spend too much time understanding, the time goes. All right. So as you are doing your exam simulators, manage your time well. Learn how much time you can spend on the first 60, second 60, third 60. It's really easy. 3 hours and 50 minutes divided by 3. That's how much time you have for each of the 60s. Make sure that you hit those target times as you are preparing. During the PM Prep Course Practice exam, I finished with about an hour left. But on the exam, I answered my last question with 1 minute left. During the first 60 questions, I fell behind on time and I had to really speed up during the last 120. Yes, so time management, because of these 3 sections, truly important, right? You have to know how much time you can spend and how much time you are allowed to have for each of those segments of 60, right? Yeah, Rui, like I said, 3 hours and 50 minutes divided by 3. That's how much you have. So it's an hour, roughly an hour and 15 minutes, right? Something like that if you do that in your head very quickly. All right. And then finally, okay. Take your time to carefully review each question, but you need to make sure that you are keeping a decent pace and answering questions. Okay, so even though there is time pressure, make sure that you're going at it calmly. All right. You have to read the question, the full question. You have to understand what the question means. Then you have to read the answers and you have to pick the correct answer, or you have to pick multiple corrects, okay? And that's why I'm saying using an exam simulator is so important, to get used to the read it, analyze it, understand what is really going on here. Okay, and this exam is really all about solving problems and fixing issues with people and plans. Practical application is definitely the name of the game. In the past, PMI got a lot of flack that the PMP exam was not really practical. It was a theoretical exam, lots of memorization. And every single lessons learned that you lead these days goes into the exact opposite direction. This is no more knowledge-based, no longer knowledge-based. This is now experience-based. You really have to know your project management in order to pass it. Rui has calculated it. It's 1.27 minutes for each question. All right. Do we get results at the end? You get a pass-fail, Rima. So they just say you either passed or you failed. Now then, let's talk about training materials for the new exam. So if you are planning on taking the new exam in 2021, here is my recommendation. As the foundation, you want to take the PMI authorized PMP exam prep course, for example, the one that my company offers. On top of that, you need to study the PMBOK Guide 6th edition and the Agile Practice Guide. Okay, mentioned that many times already. Then you also need to study the Agile Manifesto and the Scrum Guide. And on top of that, for the umpteenth time today, please get a simulator. Okay, do yourself that favor. That is my number one statement that you should have realized by now. Okay, so this is your approach if you're starting fresh. Starting in 2021, this is the training that you want to go through. But what if you originally practiced and started in 2020 and now you're in 2021? Okay, what do you do? Okay, well, as the foundation, you still have your 2020 studies. I always say if you studied in 2020, that covers about 75 to 85% of what you need to know in 2021. So this is not lost. This is good. This is your foundation. On top of that, get a booster course, get a gap bridging course, get a course that helps you upgrade yourself to the 2021 exam. Okay? All right. And then on top of that, PMBOK guide, Agile practice guide, and you know what's coming next, right? Manifesto, Scrum guide, and yes, you do need a 2020 simulator. You studied in 2020. You now need the 2021 simulator. All right, so what is my take action for you here? When you search for courses, look for the new PMI ATP badge, right? It used to be the RAPs. Now we are ATPs. Make sure that you take your course from an authorized trainer and make sure that you take the PMI authorized PMP exam prep course. And even though this is the PMI's course, right? No course, no matter how good it is, no matter whether PMI has designed it or I designed it or Rita Mulcahy, no course at the end of that, you'll not be able to just go and pass the exam at the end of that. You need to have some self-study. And this is why I recommend at the end of the course, you have to add 3 to 5 weeks of self-study. We now include a coaching guidebook that takes you through those 3 to 5 days. It tells you exactly what you have to study and how you have to study after you've taken the course with us. And you have to study the PMBOK guide and the Agile practice guide, use the exam simulator, and then, and I know this sounds very simplistic now, take and pass your exam. But frankly, if you have done everything that I've just recommended you with all the training and you build up on it and you use an exam simulator and you spend the time analyzing why am I doing things wrong and why am I answering these questions wrong, you will learn and you will improve, right? That is my prediction there for you. All right, upcoming courses. Once again here, March 22nd, April 19th, and May 3rd, we have a 1-week PMP Power Prep with Oliver Lehmann. And then on April 3rd and April 17th, we have 5 Saturday courses coming up. So if you are thinking of taking one of those courses, then please do join me here, pm-prepcast.com/PMP. And if you register today, then you will have an early bird discount available on the website for most of our courses there. And if you haven't done so yet, I'm going to put the survey chat, the survey link in the chat again here. Please do answer this one question survey that I have sent you there, and it basically just tells me why you are watching today's live stream here. All right, if you are not looking for a full course, but you think, okay, gonna get that simulator, then please do go to pmexamsimulator.com/PMP, where we offer the simulator with 2,100 question. Rui asks, do we know the number of people, the percent of people who passed the exam in 2021? No, Rui, we do not. PMI does not release that particular statistic. Tracy asks, where's the 2017 Scrum Guide on a link provided? Thank you. Tracy, if you cannot find it on scrumguides.org, then they may have removed it, right? They may say, well, it's outdated. We only want the 2020 Scrum Guide on there anymore, okay? So I do not know. I haven't checked in the last month or so, but scrumguides.org should have both the 2017 and the 2020, unless they have actually removed it. Okay. Regarding application, do we need to include Agile experience? Essentially, do I need to have experience in everything covered on the exam before applying? Nikki, that's actually a good question. I don't believe you need to show Agile experience. Now, I'm stumped, frankly. I have never thought about that. Look at the PMP handbook and look at the page 5 or 6, I believe, where they show the eligibility criteria, right? And that will tell you exactly what you need. Rui asks, the discount price for the exam simulator. At this point, there is no discount coupon for the exam simulator. I'm not sure. Do we have, I think in April, do we have the discount coupon? Yes, my colleague Shannon is nodding her head. Yes, April is when we have another discount coupon for the Examulator. CJ asks, is the simulator I purchased for you in 2020 still valid for 2021? Okay, CJ. In 2020, we already sold the 2021 simulator. Okay, so log into your account. If in your account it says PMP Exam Simulator, that's the old one. Do not use it. If it says PMP Exam Simulator 2021, then you're good to go. All right. All right. And I believe those are all the questions that we have. Rui asks, what is the price? The price will be 10% off, so roughly $15 off the price. Sharon asks, is there partial credit, multiple choice questions in the exam? No, there isn't. It is either correct or incorrect according to our sources from PMI. Is the booster course self-study? Cecilia asks. Yes, the booster course is indeed self-study. My colleague Shannon will give you the booster course link in just a second here. Would you emphasize focusing less on studying the math? Yes, absolutely. Page 267 of the PMBOK guide, that's what you need to know. You need to be able to interpret the math questions. Okay. Tracy has a link to the Scrum guide. There you go. For the 2017 Scrum guide. All right. And with that, we are coming to the Eugene. Eugene says, my question hasn't been addressed. What was your question, Eugene? I have so many questions showing up here that I have a hard time seeing it. I apologize. Oh, wait. I just saw it. Eugene. Can you take the PMP exam? No, you cannot. You have to have at least 36 months of experience as a project manager. Without that, you cannot take the PMP exam. All right. How many days after you take the 5 Saturdays do you suggest we take the PMP exam? Let me go back here because I mentioned that previously. Here we go. Complement 3 to 5 days of self-study, right? So if you take Bullet 2, the official authorized course, then after the course, 3 to 5 weeks of self-study that I recommend. Okay. Where do we find the manifesto to study? It is at agilemanifesto.org. agilemanifesto.org. There we go. Is the 2021 simulator questions like the real exam? They are as close as they can get, Sharon. Okay. And with that, we are coming to the end of today's live stream. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. It was a very engaging sessions here. Lots and lots of questions, an hour and 15 minutes today. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with me and all those interesting and challenging questions, some of which I actually had a hard time answering. Oh, that happens even after you taught this exam for 12 years. I appreciate your time. Until next time.